How's it going, YouTube? Tyler the Hotshot Hauler here. Let's talk about should you or should you not get a dovetail with mega ramps for your hotshot trailer. So when I refer to mega ramps, that is the term used by, I believe, big techs. I'm talking about any type of ramp system that is built in permanently to a dovetail trailer. PJ calls them monster ramps. Titan Trailer calls them wide glide ramps. So any type of ramp like that is what I am referring to. So let's get started. So first and foremost, for me and my business, if I did not have mega ramps, I would be out of business. And that's just because the nature of my clients and the cargo I load is about 75% of that I have to drive up the mega ramps. That's because I haul lots of farm equipment, lots of construction equipment, stuff like that. Okay, so for me, it's non-negotiable. Okay, but let's go ahead and talk about the good, the bad, and all that stuff. So first and foremost, the good thing is with mega ramps is they are easy. They are permanently there. You don't have to worry about people stealing them, and they are relatively inexpensive. They range anywhere from about $800 to about $1,400, depending on the manufacturer, on the big end of it, they're safe compared to regular ramps where you have to pull out and hook on, or however the design is. You really don't have to worry about falling off the ramps. You don't have to worry about that stuff because most of the time they will cover a minimum 6 of the 8.5 foot tail width, or depending on, like on my Titan, they cover like 8 foot of the 8.5 foot tail width. So it's really almost impossible to fall off. Okay, you're having a bad day if you manage that. So from a safety standpoint, that is that. Okay, another good thing is with them is they are much stronger than standard hook-on ramps or whatever system you have. Okay, now I say they're stronger, but you need to be aware of the brands you're buying. So for example, on my Hefty, some of the ramp itself on the mega ramp is actually starting to bend in some areas. That is because the trailer is made like shit and it's a bad trailer and it's built to the minimum standard. So make sure that when you buy your ramps, make sure you buy good ramps and that they're built strong, okay? And don't buy Hefty, okay? So that is definitely something to look out for when you're buying them. Also, when you're buying mega ramps, make sure that you can lock them up. Almost all brands now have a feature, usually it's a locking bar that you lock onto the ramp so you can stand them up. And you want to have this ability so that way if you load a long vehicle or something like that, if you can lock the ramp up and that way you can still drive, because on like my Hefty and some other brands out there, the ramp actually has to close. It has 2 positions, all the way down or all the way down open. Down closed or down open, that's what I meant to say. Okay, you don't want that. Make sure you can have something where you can lock it up, because if you don't have that built in, you're gonna have to use chains and it's a bad day. I will tell you from experience, you don't want to run into that. Okay, so definitely look into that. Okay, but now let's talk about the bad things with mega ramps. Okay, first and foremost, the cost. Like I said earlier, it adds that cost. It adds more weight to the trailer. You are taking off a standard wood and standard frame, so you're adding more weight because you're adding a bunch of steel to the trailer, which is heavier than wood. So it is going to add a little bit of weight to the trailer. And on top of that, the big thing with mega ramps is that a lot of people don't realize until they have something happen, like what I did, your clearance issues with what you can load. Okay, like I said, I load lots of heavy equipment and farm equipment, so it's not I've never had an issue with that. Okay, but for vehicles, I can only load trucks or like Jeep Wranglers and 4Runners. And that is because the design of the ramps, when you drive up, if your ground clearance will not clear the front bumper, you will smash the front bumper into the trailer. Or you will slam, which is more unlikely, but because you're going to smash the front end. But you can potentially high center and slam the bottom of the car. Okay, that's much more unlikely. It just, yeah, that's way more unlikely. But the thing you got to look at more is slamming the front end. So that's why car haulers and the other ramp style is beneficial, because you don't have to worry about that, because you're just driving the wheels up. You don't have to clear the actual front end and any of that stuff. Okay, so that is the huge downside with mega ramps, like the huge downside. Okay, I mean, really, that's really the only major downside that I must say. Okay, and the other thing to be cognizant of is ramp length. Okay, most mega ramps out there are 5 foot long. If you can get them 6 foot long, like what I have on my Titan, I would highly advise that. Reason is basically it boils down to a game of very simple angles. Okay, so on a 5 foot dovetail, your angle is probably about like this. Okay, on a 6 foot dovetail, your angle is probably like that. So not only does it lower the approach angle and the steepness, but it also makes it, with some equipment, it lowers the pucker factor. And what I mean by that is when you load equipment, especially tracked equipment, you have what's called a tip point. And you have this with everything, but with tracked machines, especially skid steers, it's a very different beast to be cognizant of. Okay, a tip point is where let's say you're at 50%, so you're at a perfect teeter-totter. Okay, like imagine you're on top of like a pyramid. Okay, you're at a teeter-totter, and then that tip point. Okay, on a 5 foot dovetail, that tip point is much steeper and much more aggressive. And let me tell you, with certain machines, you will slam onto the trailer, or when you drive off, you will slam down. So not only can it be scary, and it can be a safety standpoint, because you can roll machines. I have seen it. I've seen people roll mini excavators trying to climb up mega ramps, okay, on a 5 foot tail. It is steep, and until you are in the driver's seat and doing it, you won't understand it until you're there doing it. Okay, so you have to be much more cognizant of that on a 5 foot dovetail versus a 6 foot, obviously, because the added length lowers the angle, makes it safer, makes it easier, stuff like that. Okay, so that is definitely, from a safety standpoint, something to be cognizant of. But overall, guys, that really sums it up. From my business perspective, not having mega ramps would have been detrimental to me. I know a lot of guys out there, when I was getting into hot shotting, just said, oh yeah, you don't want mega ramps because some companies won't load cargo on them. And that is true. I have ran into that one time, but 99.9% of the times, people don't care. Okay? Now, when you get I apologize, the roads in Colorado suck. Now, when you get ramps, make sure that the tail width of the ramp covers the majority of the width of the trailer, because some mega ramps out there are only like 6 foot wide, and they got a big opening in the middle and on the sides. Try to avoid that if you can. If you can get the most coverage on your tail, not only is it safer, but it makes it easier to load stuff on top of the ramps when they're closed. Okay, but yeah, guys, that really sums it up. For me, if I will never not get mega ramps, but if you're going to be moving a lot of cars, I would not get mega ramps. Okay, I would not do it. Get regular ramps, or if you're going to move cars, you're going to want to get a car hauler trailer. But be aware, basically, if you have less than about a 34 foot trailer, you're probably not going to be able to transport more than 2 vehicles. I mean, I've stuffed 2 vehicles on my 30 foot Titan, and it was too close for comfort. So I definitely would highly recommend making sure, and I was only able to do that because they were loaded by a forklift. That's the only reason how that worked. If I had to drive them up, I wouldn't have been able to drive those vehicles up. But you are not going to be able to probably fit more than 1 vehicle unless your trailer is longer than 34 foot at a minimum. So, but yeah, guys, I mean, that sums it up. Mega ramps are great. I think that they're worth the money, but it really depends on the clientele you have. And if you're unsure whether to get them or not, I would highly advise probably getting them. It really depends. I mean, that's just my outlook, and that's because I don't like to transport cars, and I transport so few of them. But if you have any comments or questions, please don't hesitate to ask. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and stay tuned for more Hotshot content. Thanks, guys.